guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you're here. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Rachel. So nice to meet you. I am a YouTuber that focuses on content about college life, working life, all my work in the PR industry and things like that. So I would love for you to stick around. Anyway, so today's video is going to be part of a series about being a PR college student. Still trying to come up with some names for the series, so maybe I'll have them by the time I post this video. This first video is going to be about the classes that you take as part of a PR major. Full disclosure, I go to the University of Oklahoma and I'm part of Gaylord College's public relations program, so each PR program will vary a little differently just depending on what kind of public relations degree you're getting and all of those things. But I think that a lot of the classes, like overall, are pretty standard, and they might just be like different names or might have some slightly different focuses. Might like sub in and out a couple of different PR classes, things like that. But this is my perspective on the classes that I've taken thus far. I am a first semester senior, so I only have one semester left after this one, so I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of all of the classes that I have had to take as a PR major, and I'm super excited to share them all with you. So let's just go ahead and hop right in. Okay, so I feel like I need to give a little bit of background information because my path will look a little bit different than most people's paths in terms of the classes and when I took them. All the classes are the same, but when I took them kind of varies because I am a transfer student to the University of Oklahoma. I spent my first year studying music therapy at Belmont University in Nashville, and that was a really fun experience, but just wanted to kind of change up some things to better align with where I saw my life going and the things that I was passionate about. So here I am at the University of Oklahoma studying public relations, and I honestly could not be more thankful. I absolutely love it, and it really has like just shown me that this is exactly where I need to be and exactly what I should be doing. So I did transfer in for my sophomore year, so that's when I started my course of public relations classes. So some of these classes people might have kind of divided up over like a couple different semesters, but I took some of them like on the same semester just so I could keep on track. I will be graduating early on my track. My normal track would have been May 2022, but I'm graduating in December 2021. So my sophomore year, the first classes that you kind of have to take in being a part of Gaylord College are part of the JMC core. So that's Journalism Mass Communications core classes. So these first two classes are Intro to Media and Media Writing and Storytelling. Intro to Media you have to take first, or as like a co-requisite with Media Writing and Storytelling. And that class is basically just giving you an overview into the area of media. I personally think that it's really journalism heavy because that is like obviously a major point at the college, because our degrees are Bachelor of Arts in Journalism with like a focus in public relations. So they definitely want us to have that background in journalism and like strategic writing. So I think that it's definitely made me a better writer, but I will say that that Intro to Media class just kind of talks about just different things with trends and how media has developed and the history, and then gives you a basic overview of like ethics and law and things like that. And so it really gives you a firm foundation into the rest of the majors at Gaylord, because we have quite a few different ones, and also a lot of students haven't fully declared being in Gaylord yet because there's like a test you take at like the end of your first semester at Gaylord, which like I took it ahead of time just because I did transfer in, so I was like already determined public relations. But a lot of people end up taking these two classes, the Intro to Media and Media Writing and Storytelling, and kind of like figure out and finalize what they want to do in the long run for the rest of their degree. So we'll say that with the caveat. And then the second one that I said was Media Writing and Storytelling, which like I said, we're based in journalism, so a lot of writing, and they want to make sure that we're really getting those strong foundations. So it is a lot of writing in a lot of different areas. We dive into journalism writing, so more things like short news features, stories, things like that. We have like a media pitch that we have to do and a press release to kind of get a little bit of understanding of public relations writing. We have some brand design kind of writing work, as in like newsletters or ads and things like that. We do public service announcements, just all of these different types of writing in order to really get us to understand the different types of writing involved in the different majors, but also so that we can understand as we go further into our own emphasis, how ours relate to the other pieces of writing that people do in the strategic communication world. So those two classes, I will say they probably like are the most amount of like work or like busy work, I'd say, but that's just because like they are those core classes that really want you to like get in. They're the biggest classes you're going to be in. I'm pretty sure like my intro to media class is probably like over 100 students. I think it was like 112 and we were on like a smaller class size, but it's in like our big Gaylord auditorium and things like that. So those are definitely two of the bigger classes. And then the other one is, it's not that big of a class, media writing, but like it's a lab, so it's in the context of like there's so many different like options for you to take for that class, because they are smaller classes, but there's so many options because everyone does have to take it. So those are the two kind of JMC core prerequisites in order to take any other course in Gaylord College. So moving on, so that is what I took my first semester at OU. So first semester, sophomore year, I took those two classes so that I could be ready to just jump in and take the rest. A lot of freshmen typically take intro to media in the fall and then media writing and storytelling in the spring. But like I said, I took them both in the same semester so I could get caught back up. And so then my second semester, I took my second semester, I took Principles of Public Relations and Intro to Advertising. So I knew that I was going to be public relations, but advertising and public relations work really closely together in the industry, and they're really good skills for you to just kind of know because there is so much crossover with them. And I think that Intro to Advertising like really set the foundation for me to want to take more advertising classes and really explore more into the ad industry and see like what are those differences from PR and ad. So we have to take JMC electives, so different electives within Gaylord College in order to, you know, fulfill our requirements. So that was one of the ones that I decided to take, and it was honestly so interesting. I think that advertising really is really interesting in the terms of how people buy and how brands like position products in order to create those precedents and those things. Like I know that one of the things we talked about was like De Beers rings and things like that, and how literally like engagement rings would be having engagement rings being diamonds and things like that was not a thing until the De Beers campaign. So I think that that's really, really cool. And we got to just dive into a ton of different campaigns, like the different Coca-Cola campaigns, different Nike campaigns, just all different things, which I think that is really interesting. And even on a PR perspective, it gives you a lot of insight into just like how consumers view and how they purchase. So I think that it was a really awesome class. I also should give the caveat that these two classes I ended up having to take half online because we were sent home for COVID-19, as everybody pretty much anywhere was. So I started these classes out in person and then transitioned online, but I feel like I still got just as much out of them online as I would have in person. And then that other class was Principles of Public Relations, which is basically the public relations intro class that really teaches you just about all the different areas of public relations, all the different ways you can work, how you can work with all these different industries, different basic key products that you use in public relations, whether that's like with social media, with like strategic planning, or with like how there's like press releases and how PR really goes into so many different industries. We go into social media, we go into events, we go into like governmental policy, just so many options. And I think that this class really opened up my eyes to a lot of them, especially when we had a lot of guest speakers. People would come in and talk about the different sectors that they've worked in and their experiences. And so it was also a really great networking tool because we could go connect with them on LinkedIn and get to know more about them. I know that I definitely did that with a few of our guest speakers and still like have relationships with them today. So definitely a really great resource that's available to us in that PR class, and it was just a very like robust class. And then at the end of the semester we had to do a personal branding project, which I think is honestly the most beneficial thing I've ever done in being a part of Gaylord, because I would say I had a pretty solid grasp on my personal branding to start with, because that was something that I've thought a lot about, but really having like really having a curriculum to kind of follow and like that rubric of like, all right, what are all these things? How should I evaluate them? We had to do something where like we sent a survey out to people in our life where they like gave us adjectives that described us. They like talked about our strengths and our weaknesses and all of those things. And so that was really great to have that like anonymous insight into how we're viewed and how people think we work and things like that. So that was also really cool. And then it was basically just an overall campaign. We had to come up with business card designs, and we had to have like headshots and redo social media so it's professional, and work on our LinkedIn, work on our portfolio website and things like that. So overall, it was just a really awesome project. Honestly, my most fun project, because I already had a lot of those elements in place and was really working on just like the rebrand and making them better and making them more effective. So I thought that was a lot of fun, and definitely a really important aspect that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about. They teach you how to do the actual skills of like what you're going into. They teach you the actual strategies, tactics about what you'll be doing, but they don't talk about how to market yourself to get there. So I thought that was a really great project, and I definitely got a lot out of it. So the fall semester was basically my junior year, and then the fall semester, or the spring semester was the first semester of my senior year. So this is kind of where we go into a lot more of the I would say like public relations focused classes. And I'm also just going to throw in here like my PR internship into this section, because I took that over the summer, but I'm just going to throw it in with the fall semester. So in the fall semester, I will say the fall semester I took a lot of credits, because these are not the only classes that I've been taking each semester. These are just like the ones that are prevalent to public relations and strategic communication. So that definitely like doesn't include gen eds, minor courses, all of those things. And the fact that I was a double major for a couple of these semesters. So anyway, looping my PR internship into the fall semester, since I happened over the summer, basically everyone at Gaylord is required to have an internship or take another class. So I went the internship route, and I thought it was really fun. Obviously, I was getting to do an internship with my local theater company and getting to do marketing and social media and all of those fun things for them and like running those campaigns. So I obviously loved that a lot, because it was kind of stuff that I already had a lot of ideas with. So definitely a really fun thing. And then basically we just had to write a paper about like our experiences, what we learned, different like strategies we used and things like that. So it really made me like think about those strategies, and really made me have a good experience in like record keeping and pulling analytics and all of those things, so that I would have them for my final internship paper. Okay, and so then in the fall, the other classes that I took, I have my iPad right here just with my notes, but I took public relations publications, which is basically our PR design class, where we learn like the Adobe suite. So that's like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, things like that, so that we can utilize those, whether that's like creating logos, creating brand packages. We did like a newsletter, we did like a restaurant rebrand, things like that. So that was really useful, because the Adobe Creative Suite is basically like a required skill at this point. At least you having an understanding of like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Lightroom, like all of those things. So really glad that that's like offered, because while like I had a basic understanding of like these different programs, this really helped me with like creative design and things like that, and really like upping the game. So that was the class, and I actually had that class in person. We went to a design lab, but then obviously there were also like options to be online because of COVID and things like that. And then I took a public relations writing class, which basically really dives into like extensively what PR is in terms of writing. So we had things like media alerts, media releases, press releases. We had like pitches, how to pitch, how to like figure out contacts in order to like go make media pitches, things like that. And then we also had a really large amount of social media content writing, or like event writing, so like event speeches, presentations, and then honestly like an entire social media campaign. This was another situation where we like worked with a client, and we kind of based all of this around what our client does. So again, like I used a theater program, and so all of my writing was like based around that and based around things that they were doing, which is really awesome that they give you the opportunity to like work with actual clients, so that you get that like really hands-on experience. And it's also, you feel like it's more meaningful than like writing something for like a made up company or something like that. That was really interesting. And then our final project was culminating all of it together into just like a final presentation that had like a full social media campaign calendar. It had the press releases, pitch releases, things like that, that we could put together, and you could really see how you made a cohesive brand throughout all of the writing that you did. So that was really good and really helped give a better understanding of those different types of writing. And that was actually an all online course. We had like Zoom meetings with our professor every once in a while just to kind of check in, but it really was the whole like, it's all online, it's up to you to figure out those deadlines. And all of those courses were courses that are required as part of the PR curriculum. And then I took 2 additional courses from Gaylord. I took public relations case studies and advertising account planning. So I'll kind of start off with public relations case studies. This is a class that my class was like a test run of the class, I guess, because it's going to become the capstone for public relations. So another required class that you would take in the fall of your senior year before you take campaigns in the spring. Or maybe you do, maybe it's swapped. I don't really remember because I didn't take it in that format, but this was a test class. It was a super small class. There was only like 9 of us, and I personally really enjoyed it. Basically, the entire class we had like different readings and things like that she would pull that were basically articles about different public relations campaigns across all different types of industries, across all different types of mediums. Some of them were things that were more like event-based, like an activation. Some of them were more social media, some were literal crisis communications responses to things going on. So it was definitely a very good understanding of public relations in practice and what it actually looks like. And so it was like class discussion based, and we would discuss things together and kind of talk about the different strategies they took, whether they were effective, whether they weren't effective, because that was another awesome thing is we had a mix of campaigns that were super effective, but also campaigns that were not effective at all, so that we could learn the differences between them and even like how to make the other ones better, what they should have done. So that was really awesome. And then at the end of the semester, it culminated in, we were in small groups, and we had to create our own campaign over not our own campaign. We had to create our own case study over a campaign of our choosing. So we used the Bumble, like one for like being at home during quarantine and during COVID, to talk about what they did well, what they didn't do well, how they introduced certain activations, things like that. So that included like audits of their social media presence, like what were they already doing well, what did this like make better, things like that. And so that was another thing that was really beneficial, because case studies are like out there, and it's a big part of public relations research and things like that when you find these case studies. So like I said, it's just really good to know like how to evaluate a campaign, and I think that this class did that really, really well. The other class that I took was again an elective, because I wanted to get a little more into the advertising world, and we took advertising account planning. And that course, I think, has maybe been one of my favorites in Gaylord College. I really respect the professor that teaches it, and she has a lot of really great insight. And I think that it really just taught me a lot of like that ins and outs and the strategy of things, because I really like strategy. I think that consumer insight's really interesting. We had one assignment where our assignment was like literally to go and like sit in a Target or sit in a Walmart and like watch people like buy soap for an hour and see like what their motivations were. How long did they take to buy soap? Like where did they look? Did how fast they were, or the options that they were looking at change depending on whether they were with someone or if they had a kid with them or things like that. And so I just think that it really opened my eyes to an entirely new way of kind of seeing consumer insight and strategy, which I think is just so interesting. And we had a lot of like mini projects along the way. We did things with like focus groups, we did things with best practices in advertising and things like that, moving up to the culmination of our final project, which this final project was for an actual client. We did it for Spotify, and I don't know if I can like go into the details of what the project was, but I will say it was just really beneficial to get to like work with a client like that and understand like from the client's point of view and get to really put those things into practice and see how to develop a strategy and like the different lenses you would go through and look through in order to create a strategy. So really recommend that class, or if you have a class like it, to take one. Even from the PR perspective, I think that it really says a lot, like I said, about consumer insight and things like that. All right, now we head into the first semester of my senior year, which is present day, current, hello, here we are. And so currently the classes that I'm taking that are relevant to like public relations and StratCom is I'm taking public relations research and media law, which are 2 required courses of my major. And then I'm also taking social media marketing as a Gaylord elective. So first with PR research, this is a course that really just does give you that foundation into the basis of campaigns, and it's the prerequisite for actual public relations campaigns, because basically everything with public relations like really does need to be rooted in research, whether that's secondary and just like seeing how people react to things, or primary of actually speaking with people and seeing their insights on things. Because in order for obviously a campaign to be effective, you need to know what people think, what people are more prone to, what they are more interested in, what they know, what they don't. So in order to create that awareness that's mutually beneficial for your client, you got to know those things. So this really walks us through different research tactics, whether that's in-depth interviews, focus groups, surveys, all of those things. This is where we really get understanding of that and where to find good resources and all of those things. Again, we use real clients, which is honestly something that I do just love about Gaylord, is so much of our work is for actual clients. And so we get to talk to them. We have like a foundation to go on. We kind of understand public opinion. Okay, so kind of weird, my camera cut me off because the internal temperature got too high. But anyway, with PR research, anyway, like I said, we use actual clients so that we can really get that experience and really like it. Not a huge fan of research like overall and just like those processes, but it's really important for you to know, and it's really important for you to understand, especially like being able to like understand research and research findings. So I am glad we have to take it, even if it may not be my favorite class ever. So you know, you win some, you lose some. But the other classes I'm taking right now, media law, again, one of those required classes. It is a fully online class, and it basically just teaches you about like media law and ethics. And so a lot about like, what is free speech? Does free speech apply like in what situations? How do certain media cases set certain precedents, and how do we like judge these things, like to ensure that you're being ethical and following laws and things like that. So that's that class. It's online, one of those just, you know, again, JMC core classes that every single person in Gaylord College has to take. And then the final class that I'm taking this semester is social media marketing, which we all know like I love social media, and so I think that it's really interesting just to kind of get to dive deeper into that and do a full social media campaign for a client, and kind of creating, like I said, those strategies and thinking about all the things that it really goes into it to provide those really solid basis to ensure that you're getting the results that you want, and that the research has been done in all of those things to ensure a positive social media campaign. So that's another class we do. We kind of learned about different types of content creation in the beginning. We had to do a podcast, so that's actually where my podcast started, was because of my social media marketing class, and I had to do a first episode, and I just thought it was really fun, so I wanted to keep going, and so that's where that came from. And I just had to do other things like creating just some content for like mock clients to prepare for doing ones for the actual client and things like that. So that class is also really interesting, and I'm glad that I'm taking it this semester to really give me like that foundation as I move into more things based in social media. The final couple of classes that I will be taking will be happening in the fall, so don't really know much about them yet in terms of like what they're actually like versus like what I just hear they're like. But the first one is public relations campaigns, which is currently the capstone class. That's basically like, all right, here is what we've kind of been leading up to. We do a full-scale public relations campaign for an actual client, full plan book, all of the things, all the research, all the creation, everything. We do that in a team, and so we do it for clients so that we can really understand exactly what it's like to do a campaign before we go out into the real world and need to do a campaign. So that is something I'm really looking forward to, hoping that we get a cool client to get to work on, and that'll be like my final class in Gaylord. I probably will be also taking just another Gaylord elective, whether that's something in public relations or advertising, just to kind of fill out my semester and gain more knowledge. I think that there's definitely lots of awesome specialty classes that Gaylord offers to get more information on things. There's like, I know that there's like a podcasting class, there's classes on more digital design, there's classes that handle things like writing for sports or just all these different like niche areas. So there's definitely electives for everybody, and especially because our industry is so like segmented and there's so many different options of what you can do, it's awesome that they offer so many different courses so that you can really see exactly what it is that you want to specialize in. All right, y'all, that is it for all of the classes that I have to take to be a public relations major, obviously with the exception of general education requirements and the required minor that's with my program. I'm personally going to be an arts management and entrepreneurship minor, which I think those classes are really interesting. But so anyway, that's all kind of separate from my strategic communication work. But anyway, I hope that this was helpful for anyone who's interested in public relations or wanting to know more about the classes that you take in order to get the degree and things like that. So hope this was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to know if you thought this was helpful, if you are excited for any of the classes that you're going to be taking and things like that. So would love to hear your input and your thoughts. I will see you guys later for a new video, and I'm excited to get to know you. So bye guys.